where the tribes ended up in the Americas, and I'm going to prove this. We just read in the Bible that the 12 tribes of Israel came to America. How can we prove that? I'm going to prove it through genetics, and I'm going to prove it through history, okay? And on top of the fact that I just showed you in the Bible that the tribes would come to America. How do we prove it genetically? This is the Y-DNA human migration haplogroups. In your blood, we all have 23 pairs of chromosomes in our bodies. The male carries the Y DNA, the Y chromosome in the DNA, and that DNA has markers. The markers are classified in what is known as haplogroups, right? The haplogroup of the Israelite is this yellow mark that you see here for the most part, the yellow line. And it shows you how they came from the Middle East. This is the line of the Israelites, came into the Pacific Islands, and then they came over here to the Americas. So genetically, the Q, the C, and the M and some other markers, this is the marker of the 12 tribes of Israel, okay? And you can see they're here in West Africa, Sub-Saharan Africa, in the Pacific Islands, they came to America. So this map alone confirms that the genetic identity of the 12 tribes of Israel and where they went, who they are related to. And we saw in the scripture that the 12 tribes of Israel lost their land and migrated from the old world to the new world. I'm going to read books, historical books that confirm that to you, okay? Let's say, for example, this book. It's called History of the American Indians by James Adair. History of the American Indians, okay? Adair was a great historian, and he wrote about the Native Americans and their genealogy and their ancestry. And I'm going to read some of the introduction here for you. In behalf of Adair, in his theory of the Jewish origin of the American Aborigines, it should be pointed out that a long line of writers, both before and after him, have the same view, okay? Soon after the discovery of America, the theory was advanced that the Indians derived from the lost tribes of Israel, okay? A great number of writers whose imaginations have been struck by the astonishing coincidences of many particulars of the customs and religious rites of some of the American Indians with those of the Jews, right? So that's one book, one of many books, okay? History of the American proves to you that the American Indians descended. That's 500 pages of documents proving the American Indians descended from the 12 tribes of Israel. In this book, when an explorer came and met up with the American Indians, there was a tribe in Quito that spake to him in fluent Hebrew. Okay, I'm going to read that for you. This is Lost Tribes in Promised Land, and this is page 364. It says here, right? She then turned to her male companion and explained the situation. Upon hearing her words, they rose, went over to Montezinos, and said, and to his utter astonishment said, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Ehad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. They had recited in Hebrew the fundamental credo of Judaism. They told him that they were themselves of the tribe of Reuben, okay, and that the tribe of Joseph lived on an island nearby. That the day when they were at last to issue forth into the world was coming soon, okay? So these American Indians knew that they were descendants of the 12 tribes of Israel, okay? And they spake in Hebrew, and they greeted the Merino Spanish explorer in the Hebrew tongue. This is documented in this book, okay? I have more. There's another book, Origin of American Indians, okay, where they themselves tell you that they're descendants of the 12 tribes of Israel. This is in page 88, okay? Here. The most recent theory seem to be that they are descendants from the 10 tribes of Israel. Okay, the tribe of Issachar. This descent was indicated by many of the customs, rites, and ceremonies common to the ancient Hebrews and modern Indians. Okay, so here we go, right here, right? He said here, right? The Mexicans are originally of the 10 tribes captured by Salmanasar and of the family of Issachar. It's true, the Mexican Indians are descendants of the tribe of Issachar. That's mentioned in Genesis 49 in the Bible, whom the Indians recognize as their ancestor. Okay, when the conquistadors and the Spaniards came here, the American Indians, a lot of them knew and was telling them that they are the Israelites. And this is documented in those books. So the Bible tells you that Israelites came to America. The Israelites in America, the American Indians themselves tell you that, yes, they are, in fact, the Israelites that came to America. They were telling them that.
Shalom.
Shalom, Adawan. How about Shem Yahshabbarakatah?
How about you? Was everybody able to see that or hear it? Put a 7 in the chat if everybody can hear that. That was just playing. Before we get started, put a little 7 in the chat for me one time. One time. Where's Judah at? The brother was talking all this mess and the nigga not even on here. What's going on? You look like Derek having problems because he keep coming in and out. All right, why are you gray, bro?
You said I'm gray?
Yeah, you gray.
I mean, my shirt gray. My camera gray?
Like you look great on my screen, bro. Is it just me?
Nah, I see it. I see the fuzz.
You look great, my dude. You great.
Hold on. All right, hold on. I'll be
Go
back.
out and come back in. That look weird. You're like a ghost. All right.
Hey, Shalom, how I look, man? I'm on my phone this time, man.
You look fine.
Okay.
You're late.
It was the whole computer situation.
CPT. Shut up. All right.
Oh, man.
Okay, all right. Look, I'm going to play just a little bit more of that for y'all while we wait on the brothers to come in. We'll play 2 minutes of it.
They are related.
Hold up, buddy. For those of y'all wondering the name of the video, it's at the top once I play it, right? As soon as I hit the play button, it's called Locating the 12 Tribes of Israel, in parentheses, Identity, Part 2 of 2. This is from Israelite.net, right? The brother has no problem with us playing the video. The water to him for posting it. He's got books in there. The reason I'm playing this little clip is so that you guys know a couple of books to go get, right? Because my quarrel with the so-called Negro only brothers is that, wow, Karen. Shout out to Karen. Look, so, but yeah, you're still great, but it is what it is. It's just going to, we can hear you, so it's all good. But, yeah, so basically, I wanted to play that video, that little clip. I'm gonna play it again so y'all can see it. You know what I'm saying? For everybody that didn't get to hear everything. Just so you know a couple of the books that you could go get to prove that your brothers and sisters are the Hispanics and Native Americans, or the Latinos and Native Americans. I like that word more than Hispanic. Latino means the people from this side of the world. Hispanics is the folks conquered by the Spain and Portuguese. So I don't like to use that term. But yeah. So we'll go ahead. I will share this one more time. Hold up. Right. Y'all can see it, right? Yeah.
We saw in the scripture that the 12 tribes of Israel lost their land and migrated from the old world to the new world. I'm going to read books, historical books that confirm that to you, okay? Let's say, for example, this book. It's called History of the American Indians by James Adair. History of the American Indians. Okay, Adair was a great historian, and he wrote about the Native Americans and their genealogy and their ancestry. Now I'm going to read some of the introduction here for you. In behalf of Adair, in his theory of the Jewish origin of the American Aborigines, it should be pointed out that a long line of writers, both before and after him, have the same view. Okay? Soon after the discovery of America, the theory was advanced that the Indians derived from the lost tribes of Israel. Okay? A great number of writers whose imaginations have been struck by the astonishing coincidences of many particulars of the customs and religious rites of some of the American Indians with those of the Jews, right? So that's one book, one of many books. Okay, History of the American proves to you that the American Indians descended. That's 500 pages of documents proving the American Indians descended from the 12 tribes of Israel. In this book, when an explorer came and met up with the American Indians, there was a tribe in Quito that spake to him in fluent Hebrew. Okay, I'm going to read that for you. This is Lost Tribes in Promised Land, and this is page 364. It says here, right? She then turned to her male companion and explained the situation. Upon hearing her words, they rose, went over to Montezinos, and said, and to his utter astonishment said, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Ehad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one. They had recited in Hebrew the fundamental creed of Judaism. They told him that they were themselves of the tribe of Reuben, okay, and that the tribe of...
Hey, right quick. Rib just told me we ain't getting notifications out there, and I see we still got 58 people. And I haven't got a notification myself, and I'm the one that started the damn video. So like the video, share the video, because apparently due to the title, they have shadow banned us for this video, right? That's what they do when they don't want Israel to know what's going on. So make sure that y'all like and share this video. Please put it on your Facebook, put it on your Instagram, do whatever you got to do, because they're shadow banning this video. I want Israel to see it, right? Because there's a problem. Israel don't seem to get to see the videos with the real history information in it, so that they stop making the stupid mistakes that they be making, right? So Salakia for stopping, but make sure that y'all share the video as well, the water. All right.
Joseph lived on an island nearby. That the day when they were at last to issue forth into the world was coming soon. Okay, so these American Indians knew that they were descendants of the 12 tribes of Israel. Okay, and they spake in Hebrew, and they greeted the Merino Spanish explorer in the Hebrew tongue. This is documented in this book. Okay, I have more. There's another book, Origin of American Indians, okay, where they themselves tell you that they're descendants of the 12 tribes of Israel. This is in page 88, okay? Here. The most recent theory seemed to be that they are descendants from the 10 tribes of Israel. Okay? The tribe of Issachar. This descent was indicated by many of the customs, rites, and ceremonies common to the ancient Hebrews and modern Indians. Okay? So here we go, right here, right? He said here, right? The Mexicans are originally of the 10 tribes captured by Salmanasar, and of the family of Issachar. It's true, the Mexican Indians are descendants of the tribe of Issachar. That's mentioned in Genesis 49 in the Bible, whom the Indians recognized as their ancestor. Okay? When the conquistadors and the Spaniards came here, the American Indians, a lot of them knew and was telling them that they are the Israelites. And this is documented in those books. So the Bible tells you that Israelites came to America. The Israelites in America, the American Indians themselves tell you that, yes, they are, in fact, the Israelites that came to America. They were telling them that.
Okay. What in the world are y'all brothers doing? What are y'all doing?
You know, Esau don't like
You
us.
muted, brother. You muted, Derek.
Shalom, shalom. How y'all doing?
Goodness gracious. All right, he back. Okay. Yeah. Like and share the video though. The water. Where can we find this video? This video is on YouTube. That's where I was just at. Yeah, let me show it to you. Bow. Y'all go support the brother. Please go subscribe to his channel. They don't like him either. He only got 452 subscribers and he got some history on there that y'all could learn. This video been out since 2014, bruh. And it's still niggas that think that the Hispanics and Latinos are not, the Hispanics and Native Americans are not Israelites. This brother got 1 hour and 20 minutes on the second part. This is part 2 when he puts out this information. He's got DNA evidence and all that type of stuff, right? So it's like you have to ask yourself, right? How can people like Ron Dalton have information that the 12 tribes chart is false and he's got this H1 or the E1B1A DNA and all that other crap, right? But then this intelligent brother right here, right? He's also got DNA evidence that he explains, right? At the beginning of this video and in part 1 as well that you could go to. So that means that somebody's research didn't add up. Somebody didn't coincide with the Bibles and the history scholars that have already been out for centuries, right? And that's basically what this brother did. He went and found a real history research, not biased research, and tried to go off somebody's skin color and the way that they look, right? He did unbiased research and actually found the truth, just like our elders did at One West, which is how they came up with the chart, right? It wasn't just a dream. It started with the dream, but then it became research that supported the dream that he got. And that's what made it a prophecy. So, without further ado, let's get into the lesson. Y'all see what the title is. I've been waiting to do this class for a long time, and I'm unfortunately going to have to make it as short as possible. So, I'm not going to do a 2-part. We actually have a real part 1 to this lesson. Let me actually see if I can find it right quick while we talking. Was y'all able to find some history on this stuff? Any research?
Con. A lot.
That should be good then. Hold up. Ain't no
Con.
So like yeah. Hold up. Trying to see what this video is called that I did this lesson on before, because I definitely forgot what the title of the video was. Ooh. It's about the Northern Kingdom though. I think it's proof that the Northern Kingdom is Hispanics and Native Americans or something like that. It's something like that. Yeah. No. That ain't it.
Salaki, you got one. You got actually a few, but one that say blacks, Hispanics, and natives. Salaki.
Nah, it's not the one that's voting. It's a different one.
Okay.
That's the voting one. It's the one I literally did just on the Hispanics and Native Americans. I showed y'all books and passages and all this stuff. You know what I'm saying? And people didn't watch it. That's why niggas still stuck on stupid. But I wanted to show it to y'all so folks could go back and look at it. It was one of my first Milk Monday videos. And I don't even know what the jump was called. But anyway, I'll find it at some point. I'll put it in the comments. But it's basically proof that the Hispanics and Native Americans are Israelites. Make sure.
Don't worry about it. We'll find it while you get into it.
Yeah, please, one of y'all look for it so I could, because I really want to show them that so that they can link the 2 videos together. Because if you got both pieces of history, because I ain't going to show y'all all this stuff I showed y'all in the first video. So I'm saying if y'all could link them both together, it's going to be no way that anybody's ever going to be able to come against that knowledge, because it's like emphatical proof. It's literally historical and biblical, right? And I got books in that video to prove the history portion of it. I just can't find the damn video. Anyway, hopefully we'll find. I don't know if it got deleted or shadow banned or whatever, but it should still be up there. But we'll find it. I'll put it in the comments. Anyway, so that's what we're gonna be talking about today. We're gonna be going over basically proving that the Hispanics, Latinos, and Native Americans and are the Israelites. You know what I'm saying? So what you'll need today, I will be going into this book a little bit, Lost Tribes and Promised Lands. You guys can go get that. Should go get that if you don't have it. It's a good book. There's a couple other books I got, but I'm not gonna go into them today. We'll say that for another lesson. You're gonna need your Strong's Concordance as usual. Your Cruden's Apocrypha Concordance. All right, and your Bible, your Apocrypha, and a notepad with a pen. All right. So, yeah. So basically, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna read a couple passages from this book first. Hopefully, one of you brothers can find a video for me while I do that. Y'all can take some notes on this. I'll give you the page numbers. You'll have to go read the information for yourself, though, because I'm not gonna show it on the camera. That's too much work. We're gonna get right into it. Without further ado, we want to give our honor and praise to the Most High Yahweh, by Shema Mashiach Yahushua. We are the sons of thunder Israelites. It is our hope. It is our hope, honor, desire all Israel might be saved. What's this man said? Okay, yeah, Shalom. I'm reading comments, but yes, we can get right into it. You say you found it?
Hey, there's one that called it's a Milk Monday. It's called Truth on Roof and Proof Northern Kingdom is Hispanics and Natives per Deuteronomy 28.
That's it.
Come.
So in that video, the second half, after I spoke about the roof part, I gave facts. And like there's books and everything like that to prove that Hispanics and Negroes were oppressed together, Latinos and natives were oppressed together, natives and Negroes were oppressed together. You know what I'm saying? How the natives were taking Negroes from the plantation, lying to the slave master to say that they were slaves, but really treating them like kings and princes on the reservation, even letting them marry into the chief's daughters and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? It's all type of different stuff that we brought out in the video. So you can match things that you come across here in this one up with that video, certain books that I gave you in that video to go read and refer to, and you could go from there, right? But it's important to have this information that the Hispanics and Native Americans are the Israelites because they're your brothers and sisters. You can't fully, get the kingdom without acknowledging them. That's just the facts. So we have to do this. These are the people we have to wake up, right? We have to get the truth out to them as well. Judah rose up first, right, in the neck of the enemies, but it's their job to spread this knowledge to the rest of the people, right? And we're going to get to that today. So this is going to be some information that you can arm yourselves with, basically to allow you and help you, push this truth to all of the people that it's meant to be pushed to, all right? So this is the Lost Tribes and Promised Land. This is page number 77. Please, once again, like and share the video because this is shadow banned at this point due to the title, right? Anytime we're letting you know straight up that the Hispanics and Native Americans are Israelites and that the Negroes are Israelites or whatever, they're going to shadow ban the video. So make sure that y'all like and share the water. All right. So this is chapter called Enter Columbus. This is Lost Tribes and Promised Lands, page number 77 towards the bottom. It says a striking element in Columbus's geographical religiosity is his intense and abiding interest in the fourth or second book of Esdras, right? Anybody know what's significant about that book that we're talking about here? The book of Esdras, right? Second Esdras to be exact, as they said, the second book or fourth book of, right? So they're talking about that second book of Esdras, right? That chapter 13 specifically, where it speaks about the northern kingdom coming to a place called Arzareth, right? So, I forgot to put it up. Hold up. Okay. All right. And I got something from the Jewish Encyclopedia just to kind of prove that a little bit, but we'll get into that in a minute. All right. So back to this. Says that striking element in Columbus's geographical religiosity is his intense and abiding interest in the fourth or second book of Esdras. The two apocryphal books of Esdras purport to be additional writings by and about the Old Testament Ezra. By the second and fourth book is a piece of full-fledged Hellenistic apocalyptic writing that was often regarded with suspicion by the church and just as often embraced by the heterodox, right? So people of the church naturally, disrespect Ezra and don't accept these books, right? As many of us know now, being in the truth. But this is also something that was a known thing that they were also doing during the time of Columbus, right? And it's going to talk about that a little bit more. Augustine had given regard approval to Ezra's prophetic claims, and much was always to be made of this by the latter's defenders in Claudine Columbus. In the marginal notes to Columbus's copy of the Alley is relatively lengthy discourse on 2nd Esdras chapter 6 and verse 42, which reads, "Upon the third day thou didst command the waters should be gathered up in the seventh part of the earth." See, the seventh part of the earth, that's important, so keep that in mind. 6 parts thou hast dried up and kept them in the intent that of these some being planted of God and tilled might serve thee. This was often to be cited by Columbus, who argued that since only 1/7 of the world was water, a good deal more dry land than yet was known remained to be discovered overseas. So this book alone, the book of Esdras, basically, since Columbus wanted to be an explorer, if you know his story at all, if you've ever seen his documentaries or anything like that, this book alone basically wanted him to go explore the other parts of the world because he knew that there were people and things in the other parts of the world that hadn't been discovered yet. And he's getting this solely from the Bible, right? A book that they say doesn't even have any, factual evidence in it. It's not even a book that has any facts. But this is a man who used this book to get to other places of the world, literally, right? And had that much belief in it that it was a real book, speaking of real people and real things, right? Moving on, it says, but Columbus seems to have found more in Esdras than just a geographical argument. Here is one of the things he writes about in this verse in his marginal notes. So mind you, these are not things that they're just coming off and taking out their behind. This is stuff that they're getting from Columbus's actual notes, right? So they're seeing him write this stuff in Portuguese, right? As he's, going through it. So he's actually written that he had a strong, a strong affection and a love for the writings of Esdras and a strong belief in them as well, right? So it says this, his marginal notes, but this prophecy is not accepted by the reprobate Jews, yet it has been accepted by the innumerable ones amongst them who have believed in the Gospels. Israel has thus been split into 2 branches, a division predicted as inevitable by the prophet Samuel to King Saul. The reprobate Jews themselves hold Esdras, that is the Old Testament Ezra, as a canonical authority, right? This sudden display of interest in Jewish matters is startling and weighs considerably in favor of the argument that Columbus was a new Christian. What's a new Christian? For the assertion is that there are now 2 kinds of Jews in the world, those who have seen the light of the Christian revelation and those who have not yet seen it, but that even the former baptized, though they may be, still are Jews, right? So basically, new Christians have this belief in the Bible and all these things, and then there's some Jews, due to their, Hellenization and stuff like that, that don't believe in certain books of the Bible, right? New Christians at this time were people like Columbus who still believed in all their books of the Bible, like the non-reprobate Jews. And that's basically what he's trying to explain here, right? So moving on. Along with this racial Christianity is the idea, and we're on page 78 now, in case y'all didn't know. Along with the racial Christianity is an idea of revelation that places the mystical Esdras right at the center. For the note is saying that is the appearance of the apocryphal Esdras as valid prophecy is what distinguishes the new Christians from the reprobate Jews. See? So new Christians at this time felt that Esdras was a valid prophecy. So this prophecy in Esdras was a real thing. You understand? It wasn't nothing that was fake that people didn't want to deal with. You feel what I'm saying? So, in other words, the reprobate Jews' division of the Apocrypha Esdras as if to repudiate the Jehovah of the prophets, and presumably the result will be the same. The rabbinical Jews of Spain, the note seems to imply, are to be the 12 lost tribes of Israel in the modern times, right? So, moving on. All right, so now we're on page 79. But meanwhile, the Apocryphal Esdras, which was, by the way, a book of special importance to many new Christians because of what it said and who it implies and where it implies that the people are, you know what I'm saying, has a good deal to say about the original lost tribes. And this could not have passed lightly under Columbus's somewhat mystical gaze. Surely he saw special meanings for his own times and for himself in the passage on Second Esdras. So this is Second Esdras chapter 13, verse 2 and 5. It's saying that the book, Second Esdras chapter 13, Columbus started to see himself in the book. He starts to believe that the man that speaks about in verses 2 to 5 was himself, right? Am I boring y'all? People leaving the chat and everything. The numbers is going down. That's the problem with Israel. When real history come out, y'all don't like it. If it's a video where it's a bunch of stupid Christians that's talking the whole time, y'all want to watch the video. If I put a young Pharaoh on there and he's cussing and stuff like that, saying a bunch of stupid stuff that we got to refute, y'all want to watch the video. But when real history about your people is coming out, y'all don't want to pay attention to it. That's your damn problem, man. But anyway, so it says, Second Esdras chapter 13, verse 2, and lo, there arose a wind from the sea, that it moved all the waves thereof. And I behold, and lo, that man waxed strong with the thousands of heaven. He thinks he's that man, right? And when he turned his countenance to look, all the things trembled that were seen under him. And wheresoever the voice went out of his mouth, all they burned that heard his voice, like as the earth failed when it feeled the fire. And after this I beheld, and lo, there was gathered together the multitude of men out of a number from the four winds of the heaven to subdue the man that came out of the sea. Now the book says, but this warlike multitude is subdued by the man from the sea. So instead of it being a prophecy that happened, like Columbus thought it was in his mind, you know what I'm saying? The prophecy says that these people were going to subdue this man. But the book, the people who wrote the book, basically are telling you Columbus had this prophecy wrong because he ended up being the person who subdued the people, right? He put them in captivity. And it's going to talk about that. A peaceable one, it says, and then another multitude, a peaceable one comes to him, whereof some were glad, some were sorry, some of them were bound, and others some brought of them that were offered. That is, brought him slaves from their midst. So some people brought them gifts, some people brought him, trinkets and stuff like that. Some people were already bound by them when they got off the ships and stuff. And then some of the people were bringing them their slaves, right? So it says, if Columbus did indeed glimpse himself in the role of the man from the sea, then Ezra's identification of the peaceable multitude takes on a special significance. So he's trying to say if he viewed himself as the man of the sea, right, then the peaceable people had to be the people that he was there to take over, which would be the natives and the Hispanics, right? So now it's bringing you to the book of Second Ezra chapter 13 and verse 40, right? The book that the Negro only say isn't really talking about the Latinos and Native Americans. Columbus didn't really have nothing to do with that, none of that, right? Well, this is in Columbus's notes. This is where Columbus gets the idea that America is Arzareth, right? And we're going to get into that as well. So it says, those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoner out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king, whom Salmansar the king of Assyria led away captive. And he carried them over the waters, and so came they into another land. But they took this counsel among themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country where never mankind dwelt, that they might there keep their statutes, which they never kept in their own land. So it says, Ezra's interpretation of this peaceable multitude then goes on to say that the lost tribes entered into the Euphrates by the narrow passages of the river, which they were able to ford because God stopped the flow of the waters, right? And they traveled into another place, which was Arzareth, evidently a Greek corruption of the Hebrew word Ahareth, right? Or meaning another country. There they were to remain until the latter time, and now when they should begin to come. All right. So that's just a little insight to explain to you that Columbus. Damn. Hold on, guys. My computer just started tripping. Give me a second.
That's crazy. Yeah, we got a lot of history on this. I did a little research, my doggone self earlier. And after this, if somebody tries to say that the Native Americans, Reuben and Gad, and the rest of the Northern Kingdom aren't Israelites, that means they just basing off of all of their research off color. But I don't want to do it right now because I know he's gonna come back with his information. But I got a couple books my doggone self.
Hold up, guys. It's still tripping. Hold on.
Okay, come on. Yeah, but I'm gonna show you these books that I got while he's gone, so you can get a little information about Northern Kingdom. So we know the Puerto Ricans are the tribe of Ephraim. You want to read about them and how the Americans took them over, you can read this book. It's called Puerto Rico, A Colonial Experiment. All right, it's by Raymond Carr. Probably won't get into that one today. This book right here is called 1491.
All right.
All right, there you go.
I'm gonna let you get into that in a second. Hold up.
All
So
right.
now we're gonna go to page 92. Salaki about that, y'all. But yeah, that was basically explaining to you the importance of the book of Second Esdras to Columbus, right? So it needs to be understood and written down and putting our notes that this is a book that it literally has significance, and it was known to have significance, and there was even a group of so-called new Christians at some point during the time that Columbus was on this earth that believed wholeheartedly in the Apocrypha itself and all the books that were in it, right? Including Second Esdras. So that's what we see here is what's happening. All right. So now we're going to go to page 92. This is the chapter called Columbus's Golden World, right? It says, Columbus wrote in his journey for September 23rd, 1492, 7 days out at sea after a month-long stop in the Canaries, right? We do not know much about Columbus's crew. Oh, well, okay, so it's basically explaining to you that that's when they went out. So I put that down. If you go and do the research on when Cesare Borgia's dad became the Pope, it's in August. I don't remember the exact day, but the day was basically the day before Columbus was asked by the Queen of Spain and the Pope, you know what I'm saying, the soon-to-be Pope, to do this voyage, right? So they commissioned him in August, and by September, like 16th or something like that, he was out sailing, you know what I'm saying? He was out on the voyage. So now it's explaining to you a couple of people from his ship. It says, we do not know much concerning Columbus's crew of about 90 men aboard the 3 ships, but at least one of them was an Israelite. And this book came out a long time ago. There's actually been a lot more history research where you can actually find out exactly how many of the men were Israelites. I don't have that with me, but I will try to get it for y'all the next time because I've seen it before. And if I'm not mistaken, it was probably about 15 Israelites on that ship. There were 2 or 3 interpreters, a couple warriors, a couple just regular people, and a couple slaves. So, and a couple navigators. One of the navigators and an interpreter, who also was a navigator, the head navigator for the exact ship that Columbus was on, was Luis de Torres, and that's who we're about to talk about now. So we do not know much concerning Columbus's crew of about 90 men aboard the 3 ships, but at least one of them was an Israelite, right? Not Israeli, not a Jew, but an Israelite, whose presence as such was not merely accidental, right? Meaning he was on his ship for a reason. This was Luis de Torres, a convert of possibly only that year. And this is true. When you go into the history of Luis de Torres, he was a straight up Moorish Jew from Portugal, right? And he went to Spain when they were going through the Jewish Inquisitions, and they were kicking all the Jews out of Spain and Portugal, the Moors and stuff. They were making them go specifically to North Africa at the time when he was around, right? So instead of going to North Africa, they were giving you a chance to convert. And he was one of the people that falsely converted. So he basically converted in the public eye to be a Christian, but behind closed doors, he was still an Israelite, which is why he still spoke Hebrew. He also spoke Aramaic. He spoke Arabic and a bunch of other languages. and it's going to explain that. So, but he was basically put on the ship just to be able to speak to the Hebrews that were going to be found, because Columbus knew who he was looking for, right? The man in this book is going to allude a couple of times to the fact that, or to the assertion, I should say, that Columbus was looking for Genghis Khan and you know, and Asia, right? With Genghis Khan being known to be somebody that lived in Asia and, you know, controlled Asia and stuff like that. But he's also going to say that Columbus himself thought that the Israelites, right, and that the great Khan was an Israelite himself, meaning he knew that he wasn't going to Asia. You understand? Because wouldn't there be no damn great Khan in Asia as a king, right? He wouldn't be a Khan, he'd be an Israelite. So, especially since we still knew a lot of our heritage at this time, right? So, moving on, this was Luis de Torres, a possible convert of that year, who had once held a position with the governor of Murcia, right? He was said to have known Hebrew, Aramaic, and some Arabic, and had been brought along by Columbus specifically as an interpreter, right? So he's only there to speak the language of the people who he thinks he's going to find when he gets to the place he's supposed to be going to. If he thinks he's going to Asia, right? Asia, why didn't he get a Chinese speaking mob, right? Why he didn't get a Chinaman, a Moabite, an Ammonite? Why he didn't get an Arab, in case they might speak, you know, Arabic or something? He run into some people from the Umayyad dynasty or something like that that's over there still, from the Silk Road, right? So he didn't do that because he knew where he was going. He brought an Israelite Hebrew interpreter, made him convert to Christianity so that he wouldn't, so that he would know his interests are the same. And then he brought him on the ship just to speak Hebrew to the people he was going to be going and coming across, right? So it says, one of the purposes of the voyage, as we have seen, right, through history, was to find the great Khan, and Torres was to be the mouthpiece for this encounter, right? So if you're looking for an Asian, why you got an Israelite that's supposed to be doing the interpretation, right? So, or if Genghis Khan is a cracker, why ain't you go? He still be speaking the Moabite language, right? Because that's what they did. So if he's a cracker, why are you looking for somebody that speaks Hebrew to go do that? That means he knew what he was looking for. But watch this twist. Presumably on the basis of his Hebrew, perhaps Columbus and his supporters had decided that the great Khan reported by Marco Polo and others might be the Israelite king who dwelt across the river from Prester John. So at this time, there was known to be an Israelite king who dwelt beyond the great river. Columbus said in his notes, so that they would think he was going to Asia, right? In the offshoot notes, to throw people off what was really going on, where they get this Asia story from, right? The Silk Road story. He was looking for another passage through the Silk Road. They already had another passage through the Silk Road. And I've showed you that map in the last video. If I have time, I'll show it again. Because the same route that Columbus took on this voyage is the same route that is said that was taken in the book of 2nd Ezra, through the Euphrates River from Kuwait around South Africa and up through South America. And they worked their way up. Only he didn't land in South America. He landed in the Bahamas, right? The Canary Islands, Cuba. So that's basically the route he took. And there's a map to show that. If I have time today, like I said, I will, which I probably will just throw that in there just for the proof. But basically, as you just read, or as I just read, they said that he thought that the great Khan that he was supposed to be looking for was a Hebrew Israelite, which is why he brought a Hebrew interpreter to go and speak to him. So it says the land was sighted at last on the night of October 11th, right? The morning which was a Friday, and the Spaniards reached the island that was subsequently called San Salvador in the Bahamas. When they landed, they stepped ashore and, staying in the closed boat, solemnly proclaimed possession of the land in the name of the king and queen, right? So they didn't even get all the way off the boats and move into the land. They just hopped off the boats, you know, walked about a couple kilometers out into the sand on the beach and stuck the flag right there and said, this is now San Salvador in the name of the queen, in the name of the king of Spain, right? While the natives are watching it. It says, no doubt the astonished islanders gathered around, and Columbus writes of this historic accounting. And he says, in order that they might regard with us great friendship, because I perceived that they were a people whom would be better delivered and converted to our holy faith by love than by force. He's not coming looking for no damn Silk Road. He got off the ship, and the first thing he writes is, we're going to convert these people, these Hebrew Israelites, and we know the best way to do it is by love, not to come and act like we're coming to take them over. So we're going to trick them and think that we're coming here just as regular explorers trying to learn their way and stuff. And, you know, once they put their guard down, let their guard down, that's when we're going to strike, right? So he's explaining to you how they're going to get it done. Nothing about looking for no damn Silk Road, right? He's looking for Hebrew Israelites to convert to Christianity, right? There's even a passage in here, I couldn't find it, but when I go through this whole book and I do the lesson on it, I will definitely bring it out. There's a passage in here that explains to you how Columbus and the other people that were exploring and stuff like that, basically, once they found out emphatically that these were the Israelites, they realized that making them convert to Christianity would usher in the latter days. And that's what their goal was, right? And they're also going to make the claim that these people not following their God, right, is what allows us to be able to do the things that we're doing to them. And I'm going to read that to you a couple of times as we go on. So let's go on. That was pages 92 and 93. We're going to jump to page 94. It says they manifest great love towards all others and preferences to themselves, he writes. He's still talking about the people who got off the ships and he saw them and stuff like that, right? They also give objects of others they also give objects of great values for trifles and content themselves with very little or nothing in return. In fact, he claims he had to intervene when his sailors went in from unfair bartering. So he's saying there could have been a situation where if they realized that they were being treated unfair as far as the bartering, they probably would have fought, but they didn't. Hey, Salaki, is my internet straight right now? Can y'all still hear me?
No, you good.
All right, cool. So but yeah, so they were engaging in unfair bartering, and Columbus even had to intervene because we were so kind to the people that came across us, we didn't even realize we was giving all our stuff away and wasn't getting crap in return. You understand? So at all times he strove to set a good example to the natives, he says, because he regarded them as excellent candidates to become Christians by persuasion, right? Meaning these people are so nice, we didn't even have to force them to do it. We could just persuade them to if we stay nice enough, right? They practice no kind of idolatry, right? So at this time, they weren't worshiping the sun, moon, stars, and the goats and calves and horses and all that other crap, right? They practice no form of idolatry, but have a firm belief that all strength and power, and indeed all things, are in heaven, and that I had descended from there with these ships and sailors. And it was under this impression that I received after they had cast aside their fears. So he basically led them to believe he came from heaven. God sent him with the ships and the sailors, basically to help them out. Right? He lied about that. There had been rumors and indications among the people who have encountered these other natives of the islands who were fierce and warlike and who even ate human flesh, but none of them appeared in person on this first voyage, right? And then Columbus writes himself, I did not find any bestial men among them, as some of us had expected. Meaning that whole savage crap that they tell you about the natives, they walked around butt naked with the little Tarzan drawers on and stuff. That's not what he saw. And he said it straight up in his notes, right? But on the contrary, men of great difference and kindness. So these are men of civilization. These are civilized men, and they're kind. They're not warlike people, right? Who's the warlike savages? The ones that took these people over and killed them, right? All right. The onset of the warlike multitudes was the other day. Neither are they black like the Ethiopians. So he's saying these are brown-skinned people, but they're not as dark as the Ethiopians. So all these Negro-only niggas saying, well, you got to look just like Yahushua to be of the 12 tribes of Israel, right? This nigga found the 12 tribes of Israel and said they weren't looking black. They weren't straight up black like the Ethiopians. Meaning some of these people carry the phenotype of their Assyrian captives, right? Because we know the Assyrians didn't look straight up African. They look closer to Ishmael. And that's basically what he's going to describe. Watch this. Where am I? Neither are they black like the Ethiopians. He goes on. Their hair is smooth and straight, for they do not dwell where the rays of the sun strike most vividly. So they're brown-skinned people, but they're not super dark. And instead of woolly hair, they have straight hair. Ain't that what you see right now on the damn reservations, bro? So how can you say all of those people are Esau? All of those people are mixed in? Because Columbus, before they even had sex with one of them, he said these are the same type of people he freaking saw in the damn when he got off the ships before anybody was raped, right? If you guys read books, right, want to hide something from a dumb nigga, where do you put it? Lost Tribes and Promised Lands. Go read it. Okay, so says Columbus returned home in 1493 thinking that Cuba was part of the Asian mainland. That ain't true, as we just read. And Columbus didn't write that in his notes. This is an assertion from that cracker that wrote this book, right? That's where they get this idea that Columbus was looking for Asia. He didn't say he was looking for Asia. He thought that Genghis Khan or the Great Khan was a damn Israelite. And he didn't go look for him in Asia. He looked for him in the place Arzareth that was mentioned by Ezra, right, in the book of 2nd Ezra, chapter 13, verse 40, which he quoted in his notes. So don't be fooled. Moving on. Let's get another passage. Let's go to page number 48. That was pages 92 to 94, right? Now we're going to go to page 148. Hope y'all writing this stuff down. This is important here, right? So this is page 148, and the chapter is called A Mist of Mexico, right? So now he's going to talk about the tribe of Issachar, Yashakar, right? The Aztecs, okay? It says, page 84, the very top. The Spaniards had barely been shown to their quarters when Cortez was led by the Aztecs emperor, right, into a large room and told to sit on the throne there. So Montezuma's letting the man sit on his throne. Why the hell? Judah, what is the junk is tripping. All right. So Salaki. So yeah, Montezuma is about to let Cortez, is letting Cortez sit on his throne, and he's about to have a conversation with him, right? That's how kind we are. You see movies, they got whole damn TV shows, Game of Thrones, right? Where they ain't let nobody do that. They having whole wars over the throne. We let you come and sit on it as a guest, an honored guest, right? Because he didn't know that Cortez was going to kill him at this point. Is my internet still straight? Because I see my junk is tripping. All right, good. Esau trying to play. He don't want this to come out today. All right, so now this is in the notes of Cortez, right? The conquistador. So he wrote notes too that went back to Spain and Portugal. This is what he writes. Then according to Cortez's account, Montezuma proceeded to regale him with gifts and to tell him this very story. Long ago in our sacred writings, because it's going to talk about the Indians and the Aztecs having something called an Indian Old Testament. So they had sacred writings of the Bible, even though they didn't have the Dead Sea Scrolls and all that stuff, right? So that means they had their own copy of the books, right? The Indian Old Testament. Go look it up. Google for your Negro long knee having niggas, right? All right. So long ago in our sacred writings, our ancestors informed us that neither I nor any of the other inhabitants of this land are indigenous to it. That means there's a time in history when the Hispanics, so-called Hispanics and Native Americans, knew they weren't indigenous to this land. Because a chief, an emperor of all the Aztecs is telling their conqueror this before he conquers them, right? We know we're not indigenous to this land, and anybody in this land is not indigenous to this land. This is the land where never mankind dwelt, Arzareth, right? Okay. But our foreigners come here from a completely different place, and that our race was brought here by a lord whose vassals they all were. Can somebody give me the book of 2nd Ezra, please? Because you Negro only brothers act like this account in 2nd Ezra couldn't happen like this. It already happened, or wasn't no ships involved, right? Montezuma is telling you straight up there were vassals, right? They didn't pass over the Euphrates with ships. The Euphrates River not deep enough for that. You a duck. If you think that, stop quacking because you sound stupid, right? It says that himself, Montezuma himself, is letting you know there's a story that was passed down oral tradition since they left Assyria. We know that they were in Assyria because we got things like the Lost Lunar Stone, the Chief Joseph Assyrian Stone, right? That come from those places where they were in captivity, right? So he says that they came and they were brought there from a lord, right, who they were serving captivity to, and they were put on his vassals, right? And they were his vassals, I mean, whose vassals they were, right? And it literally says that in the book. We're going to read it. Who then returned to his native country. So he brought them to another land and then went back to Assyria. And we're going to read that. It says that in the book of 2nd Ezra. These niggas just don't read books and don't know history, so they can't tie the pieces together, right? It says, after a long time, he came here again and found the men he had left behind now married to the native women of the country. So he even left some people here with us. That's why some of us still look like Assyrians. We didn't get off the ship just Israelites. He brought us to this land, and some of the Assyrians got off the boats with us. And when Salmansar brought some more people over here to check and see what was good, his people was married to our people. Just like when Genghis Khan's people came over here and their dynasty came and the Asians got off the ships, we were intermingling with those people. When the Olmecs came, we were intermingling with those people. History repeats itself, and history adds up if you do the research, right? He's telling you we were mixing with these people. So don't tell me ain't no reason these people should still look brown-skinned with long hair. The Assyrians was still mixing with them. Some of them niggas is still here. There's Assyrians right now mixed in with the Israelites because they got off the ship too, right? So it says, after a long time, he came here again and found that the men he had left behind married to the native women of the country with many children and living in the villages they had built. So they even helped us build our damn villages, bro. Some of these people made up the tribes. So you're asking, why do some of these tribes look Asian? Some of these tribes look Assyrian. Some of these tribes look black. Some of these tribes look native. Because not all of these tribes are Israelites. Some of them are separate people, literally, that got off the ships who had us in captivity. They had kids with us and then they separated, went to go build their own villages and helped us build our villages, right? That's why you got different type of tribes. My tribe specifically is called the Comanche, right? The Numunu Tekwapu. We come from a tribe called the Shoshone. The Shoshone has 12 different Indian tribes that come from it. And only 8 of those 12 are supposed to have Israelite DNA. That means there's 3 of the tribes that are either Assyrian or Asian. Do you understand that? Just from the Comanche people. That's one damn tribe, the Shoshone. And there's true proof that the Shoshone goes back to Israel. So, moving on. He wanted to take them back with him, but they wouldn't go. So he even tried to take his people back, and they said, hell no, bro, we cool here. They wouldn't even accept him as their Lord, so he went home. Now they serving our gods. The moral drawn from the history was, this is the second part of his notes. This is something that Cortez wrote himself. We have always believed that his descendants had come and subjugate this land and make us their vessels. So we knew that there was going to be people coming to subjugate this land and make us their vessels, right? Because of the old stories. We know Genesis, right? Tells us that the tribe of Gad and stuff was going to be overcome. Deuteronomy tells us all that stuff, right? So these are things that they knew because they still had access to the Old Testament. They called it the Indian Old Testament is what Esau called it when they found it, right? Again, Google it, but we're going to make references to it in this book. So it says, now since you say that you come from the direction where the sun rises, which is where? The east, right? And because of what you tell us about the great Lord or King who sent you here, meaning the King of Spain, you know, the Pope, all them people, we believe and hold it for certain that he is our natural Lord, particularly since, because he's telling them about the Christian church, right? So they're making it seem like the God of the Bible is who sent them. As I told you in the book, told you Columbus was going to trick them and say, right? That was the standpoint that they had decided to take from this, right? That was the part that they tried to, or basically decided to use to get the Israelites to convert. They were going to come from the standpoint of we're the Christians and your God sent us to you so that they wouldn't have to fight us, right? So we see Columbus doing it first with the people in the Bahamas, and then we see Cortez doing it with Montezuma, right? Trying the peaceful route first. You understand? So moving on. So it says, though you come from the east, and you talk about, you know, the Lord who sent you, meaning the God of the Bible, Christ, right? He is our Lord, particularly since, as you tell us, he has known about us for a long time, right? Therefore, you may be assured that we shall obey you and treat you as our Lord in place of the great Lord of whom you speak. So Cortez made it seem as if he's coming from the Messiah, right? Because these people are waiting for the Messiah to come save them. So Cortez is basically alluding, yeah, you know, the devil knows the Bible too, right? You know that saying? So Cortez, being the devil, is, yeah, you know, I'm coming in the name of your Lord. So Montezuma, being a man who's practicing, you know, the Hebrew Israelite faith, okay, well, if you come in the name of the Most High and you give me enough proof, you know what I'm saying? It seems like y'all known about us for a long time, so you got to be the one coming from the Most High, right? From the Messiah and everything. You got to be the people we're waiting for. So we're going to, you know, obey you as we would our Lord. That's basically what he said. That's how this whole thing started. So it says particularly, yeah, okay, so therefore you may be assured that we shall obey you and treat you as our Lord in place of the great Lord of whom you speak, and that you may command at will in all the land over which I rule, meaning every one of the Aztecs is now in Cortez control. For you shall be obeyed. All that we have is completely at your disposal. So you hear y'all will all talk about how we gave up all our stuff until we cried, right? It's the same type of things that happen here with the Aztecs. And it's because we were tricked into thinking that these people actually came from our God because they knew the Bible so well, they tricked us. They had Hebrew interpreters that they got come off the ships with them, made it seem like they're our people, they're with our people and all that stuff. And then they trick us into believing them. Once we give them control, they take control. Now they're burning you on the stake. Montezuma got struck in the head by a stone after he told this story and died 3 days later. That's how his people got taken over. Cortez was able to confirm these are the Israelites. He was given control of the people, and then he had them ambush Montezuma with a stone strike on the back of the head, and he died 3 days later. And the Aztecs never recovered because Cortez had control. Then he took over the Incas, and the cavalry came and took over Gad, Native Americans. Then all they had to do was bring in a Negro. Now we're oppressed together, right? You can see the history adding up if you pay attention. It's very, very clear. Let's get 180. That was pages 180. That was page 148, right? All of that was on one page, 148. We ain't even got no precepts yet, man, and it looked like we won't even need none right now. If we was just people going off of history alone and we didn't care about what the Bible says, we wouldn't need no precepts because we're proving right now that there's history that proves who these people are. You could do the history on Cortez and find out that all these notes are true. You could do the history on Columbus and actually find the damn notes. Watch this. This is page 80 at the top. They were first, okay, so it's a guy named, let me see what the dude name is. La Casas and another guy who name start with an M. I can't find it, but when I find it, I'll explain it to you. So basically, La Casas and this other brother, or this other dude, were the first Spaniards to learn a great deal about the Indian customs and traditions, right? So it's going to talk about them learning about the customs and traditions for a whole page. Moving on to page 182. In the shrillest of his rejoinder to the radical Dominican, Motelina, who's the other brother, so La Casas and Motelina, carries his wrath to the Indians themselves, asserting that they had been an idolatrous people at whom God was justly angry and whom therefore had deserved their treatment at the hands of their conquerors. So now that they find out that these people are the Israelites, they're going to try to justify the things that they're going to do to them. though Columbus wrote there was no idolatry found in these people before the conquistadors got there, right? They're writing in their books at this point that they're idolaters, meaning they're lying about them, and saying that the Most High is mad at them, which they know that he will be for idolatry, right? And then, you know, that's basically going to allow us justification for the things we're going to do since we're the conquerors, right? Moving on. And apparently much less troubled spirit was that of Fray Diego de Landa, also a Frencian, right? Whom was a bishop of the Yucatan in the 1560s. Landa seems to have been relentless as a Zamoranga in his carrying out that the latter policy, and according to some of his dictators, even went so far in his campaign against all traces of paganism that was waged a kind of inquisition against Indian recidivism, whatever that is, tutoring heretics in mass, since Landa was convinced that the Indians were descended from the lost tribes of Israel. So now we have the Aztecs descended from the lost tribes of Israel, and now we have an explorer working directly with the Indians, the tribe of Gad, trying to find out that they are in fact the lost tribes of Israel, right? He no doubt saw a special challenge in any signs of Marianism among them. And for him, the actual presence of the Indian form of the Old Testament was eventually as unclean as heresy itself. It was he who burned huge piles of the Mayan codices, removing them forever from prosperity's grasp. So the Indians and the Mayans both had an Old Testament, and this nigga burnt it up. Right? So Columbus got to see it. Cortez got to see it. Amerigo Vespucci and his contemporaries got to see it. But we don't get to see it because this guy burnt it up. After he made and came to the conclusion that the natives and Latinos are in fact of the 12 tribes of Israel. Right? So, moving on. That was page 182. 183. In the middle. These paths were nothing like the insubstantial forest paganism of the European North or the West Indies, which had easily been absorbed, if not necessarily expiated, by Christian conquest. The Moorish and Jewish civilizations of Spain and the Aztec, Mayan, and Inca and Indian civilizations of the New World were each of them so grand that the conquest and the absorption of any of them would have been a remarkable achievement. Meaning they've come to the conclusion at this point that the Moors in Spain and the Aztec, Mayan, Incan, and Indian civilizations in the New World are all Israelites. And if we can absorb these people, we ain't got nothing to worry about. Right? So before we get into second Esdras, I also want somebody to grab right quick. Hold on a second, Esdras, but somebody give me Psalm 83. Like get that right now.
This is the book of Psalm, chapter 83 from the top. Keep not thou silence, O Yahweh. Hold not thy peace, and be not still, O Yahweh. For lo, thine enemies make a tumult, and they that hate thee have lifted up the head. They have taken crafty counsel against thy people, and consulted against thy hidden ones.
So they took crafty counsel against thy people and consulted against thy hidden ones, man. You understand what I'm saying? So they wanted the name of Israel to be no more remembrance. And that's what happens when you absorb the Moorish, right? Inca, Aztec, Mayan, and Indian civilizations. That's what happened. Now we're no more remembrance. Now they're not going to remember who they are, right? So now let's get here. We'll read this one too. This is page 187. For with increasing frequency and conviction, Duran, so you've heard of Duran before, right? The explorer Duran came to see elements of a Judaic character in the old Aztec religion. At first, this tendency appears only as a fervent search for Jewish analogies provoked by Aztec customs, such as the eating of only unleavened bread on certain days of the year, the prohibition of drinking liquids after the eating of certain ritual foods, and the use of baths for purification, meaning they didn't even do that. The crackers didn't even take baths for purification. Yeah, moving on. In time, this begins to seem like to Duran, like overwhelming evidence that the Indians, both Aztec, Mayan, and in the New World, are descended from the lost tribes of Israel. And he opens his last and most important work, The History of the Indies of New Spain, which is a book y'all could go get from Duran, which basically explains that the Indians are Israelites, right? Was an unqualified assertion to this effect. In this way, even certain fundamental legends can be explained, such as the one that Montezuma presented to Cortez, which we just read, right? And the departure of the great Lord in antiquity now seems to Duran to be the memory of Moses, meaning the great Lord that Montezuma was talking about has to be Masha, right? Which would make sense because the Northern Kingdom knew of Moses, right? Right. Okay. As for the object condition, the Indian, it can now be accounted for in the classical way that this is God's punishment once again wrought upon the Jewish people for their sins. Meaning, even Duran realized, hey, the stuff that's going on to these Indians is happening because they was going into idolatry and they wasn't trying to really follow the Most High, their God. These are God's people. So the things that's happening to them now by way of us is actually their punishment from their God. We've seen it twice in the same book from two different explorers, from two different time periods. They came to the same conclusion. Not counting Cortez and Columbus, the two damn conquistadors themselves, in their accounts, right? So now let's get the last piece I want to get. We're gonna go to page 363.
The lucky.
What's up?
I got a precept for that last point.
Go ahead, quick.
It's the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 30 and verse 17. But if thine heart turn away, so that thou wilt not hear, but shalt draw away and worship other gods and serve them, I denounce unto you this day that ye shall surely perish, and that ye shall not prolong your days upon the land where thou passest over Jordan to possess it. And that concept is still alive with the Most High God because he don't change. You go against the Most High, the Most High gonna send destruction to you.
That's facts. So moving on. We're on page 363. In September 1644, a Portuguese Moreno named Antonio de Montezinos arrived in Amsterdam after having lived for some years in South America, right? So now there's a Moreno, right? We know what a Moreno is, right? That's a black man. So there's a Jew, a Moor, right? From Amsterdam who went and was a captive in South America. And so he's going to tell his account, right? 2.5 years before, he told them while traveling in the wild mountains of Quito, right? He had heard, which is what you read that. So at the beginning of the like at the beginning of this video, the brother on Israelite Net, right? He read to you a book and he said that there were some Israelites in Quito that spoke and said the Shema. This is the account. It's in this book right here, right? Says he heard some of the Indian guides remark that the natives of the country deserved all the sufferings they had undergone at the hands of the Spaniards. So now Indians themselves who know the Bible are saying that they deserve this. This is what's happening now because we're sinning against our God. That's why he sent these freaking conquistadors against us, right? He's hearing this Moor is hearing Indian guides telling this. He's one of the Moors that was sent here by a cracker, right? To explore the new world as a Hebrew interpreter. And he's telling you his experience, right? So he's another Luis de Torres, okay? But this time he's for South America instead of one of the Bahamian islands or Cuba or Hispaniola. So moving on. It says when he asked them to explain why they thought such a thing, they had replied mysteriously that it was because we so badly treated the holy people of the greatest in the new world. Nothing more had been offered by them to this point, but later in the same conversation, Francisco of the Indian guides had declared that his countrymen would be avenged upon the Spaniards in time anyway. Meaning, it don't matter what's happening to us right now. We're going to get avenged of these Spaniards. Meaning, they even know that there's going to be somebody coming to avenge them at some point for their sins. Meaning, they might have read the book of Isaiah or heard of it at least, or Jeremiah, because that's exactly what it talks about, right? So by means of a people now hidden. The two references apparently were to the same people by Montezino. Not seeing their full meaning at the moment, he had put the whole matter out of his mind for the time being. But upon his return to Carnega, the Judaizing Montezinos had found himself accused of by the Inquisition and put in prison, meaning conquistadors, put him in prison. Praying for salvation in his cell one day, he was reciting what was then a standard formula among the New World Morenos, meaning there were other blacks, right, Moors in the New World who had this saying, right? And the saying was this: blessed be the name of Yahweh, who has not made me an idolater, a barbarian, a Negro, or a Indian. Meaning he know he ain't a savage, he know he ain't a Negro as a Moor, and he knows the Indians ain't Indians. Because this is not an Indian. This is a Moreno. This is somebody from the kingdom of Judah, right? He's from Amsterdam, a Moor, right? So he's just in this land and he gets taken captive. And there's a saying that the natives and the Morenos have in the New World at this time, in the 1600s, where blessed be the name of Yahweh, who has not made me an idolater, a barbarian, a Negro, or Indian. When he suddenly be stopped, and then somebody said, those Indians, he told himself, right? Now he's thinking, yeah, I'm not a Negro or Indian. But here's what he says about the Indians. Those Indians, they are Hebrews. Pondering this thought incredibly, and yet with growing conviction, he resolved that if he ever was released, he would seek out the Indian Francisco, which was the person who he was talking to in the woods that day, and try to learn the truth. Montezino's story unclear, as the circumstances of his incarceration is equally unclear to those of his release, meaning he was released, they just don't know why. But released he was, and he immediately went to Francisco. So mind you, this Indian in the 1600s, his name is Francisco. That proves to you that they were already colonized. He don't have an Indian name. His name is Francisco. That's a conquistador name, right? So revealing himself as a Jew, Montezinos proclaimed his conviction that Francisco's hidden people were of the same race as he. Would Francisco lead him to them? The two men were soon back in the rugged mountains in Francisco. He made his initial revelation, marching relentlessly for a week before he finally came to a halt. Meaning they marched for a week through the woods after he found Francisco, because they were taking him to his people, right? To their people. It was a Saturday, meaning a Sabbath. Montezinos makes a point of telling us, and the reason he put that is for a reason. So he's letting you know it's a Sabbath. It's a Saturday, right? They came to a river in the Dinero, and the echoes of the Sabbathian and all of this. Here, Francisco announced, is where your brothers will be seen. So now Francisco says, this is where you're going to see your brothers. After he told them, after Montezinos said, I think we are the same people. We both Jews. So they said, okay, you a Jew, right? They took him to the people. He said, this is where you're going to see your brothers and sisters. Now watch what happens. Or listen, rather. So eventually a canoe appeared bearing 3 men and a woman, all of them Indians, to the place where Francisco and Montezinos were standing at the water's edge. The woman got off the ship and spoke to Francisco in an Indian tongue that Montezinos could not understand. So now there's an Indian tongue that they can understand, right? We have our own forms of Hebrew. It's broken Hebrew, but it's split in a difference between each tribe. Kind of like, Mexican Spanish is different than Puerto Rican Spanish. You feel what I'm saying? So it's the same thing. The Creole of the Benjamites, right, is different than the Creole of the Levites, right? One is called Haitian Creole, the other one's called Patois, right? So same thing, but it's different. So they're speaking a language that Montezinos can understand, but watch this. So they spoke to the Indian tongue that Montezinos could not understand, although he could perceive that they were talking about him, right, in the conversation. So upon the woman then turned to her male companions and explained the situation, right? And upon hearing her words, they rose over, right, to Montezinos. To his utter astonishment, meaning they came over to the man, right? And he was surprised that they basically came over to him. And this is what they said. Salaki, I was replying to a text. Salaki. So this is what they said to his utter astonishment. Shema Israel, Adonai Elohinu Adonai Echad, right? Or we know that ain't what they fucking said. But what they said was Shemai Yasharallah, right? Allahayanawa, Yahweh Echad, right? Shemai Yasharallah, Yahweh Allahayanawa, Yahweh Echad. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one. That's what they said. And Montezinos hears this, right? And he says they had recited in Hebrew the fundamental credo of Judaism, which is in Judaism. This is the white man that wrote this, right? Montezinos let it know that it was the fundamental credo of the Jews. You understand what I'm saying? But the white man is the one that copied it. That's why it's in contemporary Hebrew and not the real stuff that they spoke. So I just wanted to put that out there, right? It also says, these children of Israel will go forth from where they now are and reign over the whole earth as they once did. That's page 365. So it's also known by this man that eventually these people were going to come back, take over the world with their brothers, the tribe of Judah, right? The kingdom of Judah, rather. Judah, Benjamin, and Levi. And they would all rule the earth together as they once did in what was called the Dark Ages, proving that that also is a true fact in history. Okay, so now that we got the history book out the way, let's get to the Bible. Huh? 2nd Ezra chapter 13. Goodness gracious. We don't even need it right now because that was so much proof right there, man. Shouldn't even be necessary to do this, but we're going to do it anyway for your naysayers and gainsayers, right?
What verse?
13, start at verse 40.
It's the book of 2nd Ezra chapter 13 and verse 40. Those are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoner out of their own land in the time of Hosea the king, whom Shalmaneser the king of Assyria led away captive, and he carried them over. So like he carried them over the waters, and so came they unto another land. But they took the counsel among themselves that they would leave the multitude of the heathen and go forth into a further country, where never mankind dwelt.
You see? So look, the whole problem with the Negro only dudes, right? They have this claim when they're looking at this and they start reading into verse 43 and stuff. They start reading the narrow passages of the river, but they forgot what was first, right? It's telling you that these are the 10 tribes which were carried away prisoners out of their own land in the time of Hosea, when Shalmaneser, the king of Assyria, led them away captive, and he carried them over the waters so that they came into another land. Verse 40 is the summary of what happens from 41. Verse 40 and 41 is the summary of what happens from verse 43 on to verse 49. 43 to 49 is giving you a step-by-step of what happened, but verses 40 to 41 is giving you the summary, right? The summary is that they were in captivity to the Assyrians. Shalmaneser put them on a ship, right? They came off this ship. He sailed them into another land, right? And in this land, they were supposed to be keeping the laws of their God, which we know they didn't, right? That's the summary. So now, verse 41, did you read that yet?
Right, where never mankind dwelt.
Right. So whenever mankind dwelt, right? So they took this counsel among themselves. They would lead them all to the heathen and go forth whenever mankind dwelt, right? Go ahead.
Verse 42, that they might there keep their statutes, which they never kept in their own land.
Right. So then they asked, how were they able to build the ship? This, that, and the third. Well, we just read from Montezinos, right?
Mm-hmm.
They were kind of working in cahoots with Shalmaneser. He even had people that got off the ship with him.
Right.
According to the history, right? So we put the history with the account from Ezra because Ezra's giving a prophecy. He don't know exactly what's going to happen.
Right.
But we see exactly what happened because it's now happening and it's been in books. It's written about, right? So these people got off the ships with them. It wasn't a ship that the Israelites had to go make, like them Negro only niggas tell you, right? Like them Fopers try to say. They didn't have to go make no ship. Shalmaneser had the ship, the king of Assyria. You don't think he got a ship that could fit them on it? Or a couple ships? It don't say how many. It just says he carried them over the waters. It don't say in one ship. That's your dumb behind assuming that.
Right.
Right?
An assertion.
An assertion. You're asserting that into the word. You're adding to the word of God. It don't say that. It says he carried them over the waters, right? And Montezinos, clarified that. He said that they were brought over in vessels. As vassals. In vessels as vassals. Right? The vessels were ships. They were the vassals. Tributaries, the tributes to the damn king. He dropped them off with his own people, visors to these people. And when he came back, he sent somebody back to the land to be an overseer. And they wouldn't even listen to him. His own people wouldn't listen to him. Didn't even recognize Shalmaneser as their lord. Montezinos told you this. Cortez confirmed it. Duran confirmed it. Montalina confirmed it. Las Casas confirmed it. How many more crackers do you need to confirm this stuff? It's their history, right? His story adds up with the Bible.
That's right.
So how much proof do you need? But let's read. Go ahead.
Verse 43. And they entered into Euphrates by the narrow passage of the river.
See that? They entered into the Euphrates, right? At this narrow place. Go ahead.
For the Most High then showed signs for them and held still the flood till they were passed over.
Mm-hmm. So the Most High made the waters easy for them to pass through, right? Go ahead.
For through that country there was a great way to go, namely of a year and a half, the same region that's called Azra.
Right. Arzaret. Spell that word out.
Oh, Arsareth.
Right. Okay. But when you go and look into the notes of Columbus, he spelled it with a Z.
Mm-hmm.
So this is another thing that happens, right? When you type it in with the S, there's a place in the Middle East, I think in Iraq or something like that, that's called Arzaret, right? And it's spelled like that with an S. It's not the same place. It's not spelled the same way that it was originally spelled by Columbus, right? But due to this being a transliteration, they've spelled it in this book with an S. Even in this book, Lost Tribes and Promised Lands, when it tells you that the word Aretz, it's spelled that with a Z, not an S, right? So the place Arzareth is the Americas with a Z. Arsareth is in the Middle East. The place Columbus found is with the Z. Understand? Go ahead, Derek. You got something?
And for brothers who kind of find that hard to understand, even Ezra's in the Apocrypha is spelled with an S. But if you go into the so-called Old Testament, you see it spelled with a Z.
Bang. So that just proves to you it's a Greek mistransliteration, right? And due to there being a place already named Arzareth in the Middle East with an S, due to Arabic, these Negro-only niggas think that everybody's in the land of the north. The land of the north is near Assyria. That's the only place because it's in walking distance. Nigga, it said that it took them a year and a half. Ain't no water that you're going to have to sail through in the Middle East that's going to take a year and a half. And you could walk from Jerusalem to Kuwait, and it ain't going to take you a year and a half. I think it takes 6 months on foot.
Hey, but the scriptures say they was in a boat. They sailed. So like, yeah.
They sail. So it can't be that they're in the Middle East, right? Can't be in East Africa. Arsareth is right here on the map. That ain't spelled the same way, you dummy. It's a different place. Want some proof? Let me read you something. let's get some more, right? Let's see what Esau know about us. This is the Jewish Encyclopedia. Everybody see that? All right.
Con.
It says the name of the land. It says Arzareth, right? And how is the Jewish man spelling it? The one with all our records, right? How does he spell it? With the S? Arzareth, right? The people who speak the contemporary Hebrew even spell it with a Z. So let's see. The name of the land beyond the great river, far away from the habitation of man, in which the 10 tribes of Israel will dwell, observing the laws of Moses until the time of the restoration, according to 4th Ezra, right? Chapter 13, verse 45, Columbus identified America with this land. C. Kersling's Christopher Columbus, translated by Dr. C. Gross on page 15. So even Columbus's works are made in Portuguese, right? Because he was a Portuguese Spaniard. He spelled the word Arzareth with a Z and made the same connection. And they have his notes in a book by Kersling, right? Called Christopher Columbus. And on page 15 of that book, you can read exactly what we just read, right? The name, it has been struggled with. Schelsler, however you say that, junk, is taken from Deuteronomy. I ain't even going, it looked like 25, 26, and 24 to 27. Because they forsook the covenant of the Lord and went and served other gods, the Lord rooted them out of their land and cast them into another land, right? Eretz, Aretz, which is what I read in the book, right? Again, spelled with a Z, as this day. So that's basically what they're talking about. I'm not going to read all of that junk, but that's, even the Jewish man understands that the 10 tribes are in the Americas. Okay? Now,
Hey, Salaki out of one.
what's up?
So them that was Roman numeral. They was quoting Deuteronomy 29, 24, 27.
I can't read that Roman shit. I ain't gonna lie to you. So, Deuteronomy 29, 27, 26 to 27, right? That's what that was. So, we don't believe in Enoch. Just real quick, we don't believe in Enoch and Jasher here, so y'all can see why I'm mentioning that. We don't believe in Enoch and Jasher because Enoch was written by the Pharisees, right? The Pharsidim, which we have a video on that. You can go and look at it on our channel. It's called I think Debunking the Book of Enoch or something like that. All right, but it's a book. I think I taught it actually. But there's an actual class where like we talk about the book of Enoch, and Jasher is got the same type of thing. It's been changed too many times where we don't feel like we have a real legitimate book that actually says what it's supposed to say, so we just don't use them. You understand? And Enoch never wrote a book. He was a person who had sayings. The book of Jude doesn't say he wrote anything. He doesn't say as it is written in Enoch, right? It just mentions Enoch, and people assume it's a book, but that's not what it is. So, and the first book of Enoch was written and found by the Ethiopians, which aren't our people. So that's something else you're gonna have to, sit on if you believe in that book. But moving on. So one of the other things that people say, they were supposed to come to this land to serve their gods, right? To keep the statues that they didn't serve in their own land. So why aren't they keeping the statues and stuff, right? Well, they all had fringes on when they were seen. Columbus saw them as a people with no idolatry, right? So when they did start going into idolatry, it had to be because these Christians were trying to force Christianity on them. They didn't want to believe in the Christianity, so they threw away their Indian Old Testament and started believing other things. This is when the idolatry began, 1492. So they weren't in complete idolatry before Columbus got there, and he proved that. So there was a time when they were serving their laws and their gods. Well, in their God and their laws, which is why they knew to wear fringes, which is why they ate unleavened bread, which is why they kept the Passover, which is why they kept the first fruits, which is why they kept the Feast of Tabernacles, right? Because they did keep the law in this land for a time. This is fact. Now, when you go to a powwow and you talk to a Gadite, they still wear the fringes, but don't know why. It's just a tradition of our people. We've been wearing them for thousands of generations. It's just the fringe, and we keep the border of blue because it's just a generation. It's just the tradition of our people to always have a blue ribbon on it. But they don't know why. It's the tradition because it's in the book that you got the damn tradition from. To say it literally says you got to have a ribbon of blue, techelet, or violet, if that's what you believe that is. Right? So it says that. That's why they do it. The Incas, right? And the Aztecs wore something called a poncho. What's on the poncho? Fringes and a ribbon of blue. So they kept the law along with those feast days, right? We read that the Aztecs kept the Feast of Unleavened Bread. They drank wine with their feast, in particular, the God said. Right? And we took a bath afterwards. Because he said apparently that wasn't some stuff that Esau was doing, right? Apparently they didn't take no bath after they eat and stuff like that, after they have a feast. But he said we did it, and it was so astonishing to him that he put it in the book. You know what I'm saying? So that's that. But they get to the point of, okay, well, they were supposed to be keeping the laws in their land. So either we were keeping it or we weren't. So for the people that say we were keeping it, okay, well, then they lost it. They were supposed to keep keeping the laws, right? But they stopped keeping the laws. So how do we know they're the people? Isn't it prophesied that all of us were going to discontinue from our heritage? It didn't just say the Southern Kingdom was going to discontinue. It said all of us were. So if they came to this land for a time and were actually serving the laws of the Bible for a time, that means there was going to have to be a time when they stopped serving the laws of the Bible, right? All right, you getting that, Jeremiah 17? You gotta definitely read that.
Khan, it's the book of Jeremiah, chapter 17 and verse 4. And thou, even thyself, shall discontinue from thine heritage that I gave thee.
You see that? Thou, even thyself, shall discontinue from the heritage that the Most High gave you, man. It ain't just the Southern Kingdom. The book of Ecclesiasticus, Sirach, chapter 17 and chapter 24 tell us that the heritage of the Bible was the laws that Moses gave to the congregations of Jacob. The congregations of Jacob include the 10 tribes of Israel. So they got the laws too, meaning they had their heritage. And they proved that they had their heritage simply by the dang garments that they were wearing when they were seen over here. Right? So, Yep. All right. So let's just go to this, right? Zechariah chapter 2 and verse 6. Give me that. Because now we're going to prove that we're supposed to be oppressed together. Zechariah chapter 2 verse 6. And then somebody else get Revelation chapter 17. And then somebody else get Jeremiah chapter 3 and 18. So we can run through this. So I ain't trying to be on here all night. I want to be done by 11:30.
What?
Huh?
Zechariah 2.
Zechariah 2 and 6.
Okay. Want me to get that now?
Mm-hmm.
This is the book of Zechariah, chapter 2 and verse 6.
Go ahead.
Ho, come forth and flee from the land of the north.
Wait. Come forth and flee from where?
From the land of the north.
So the land of the north, that got to be a significant place, right? Go ahead, keep reading.
For I have spread you abroad as the four winds of the heavens, saith Yahweh.
Read verse 7. So he spread us abroad, right? So, but he's telling us specifically to flee from the land of the north. Why? Go ahead.
Deliver thyself, O Zion, that dwelleth with the daughter of Babylon.
So the land of the north is synonymous with the daughter of Babylon, right? Why would he be telling us to flee from this place? Revelation chapter 17. Give me verse 4.
Look at Revelation chapter 17, verse 4.
What's the daughter of Babylon all about? Let's read it.
And the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication.
Right, come on.
And upon her forehead was a name written, Mystery Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth.
So this is America, right? The mother of harlots, the place of abominations of the earth, right? This is spiritual Egypt, Sodom and Gomorrah, right? Babylon the Great. That's what the scriptures say it would all be. And we see that adding up, right? Sodom and Gomorrah, Atlanta, right? You got, all the different abominations and stuff like that. The pedophilia that's legal here, bestiality, and, all of the other stuff. Pizzagate, whoredom, prostitution, all type of stuff, right? transgenderism, LGBTQ, WXYZ, U, right? That's how they go. So this is Babylon the Great. Keep reading. Verse 6.
And I saw the woman drunken with the blood of the saints and with the blood of the martyrs of Yahweh.
See that? And she's drunken with the blood of the saints and the blood of the martyrs of Yahweh, man. Why? Because we're the ones getting killed in the streets. Zechariah 11:5, right? So she's drunken with the blood of us. And where are we at? We're in the land of the north, where we're supposed to flee from. So this land of the north must be synonymous with North America, right? Or the Americas in itself, right? The fourth part of the earth, or as Columbus called it, the seventh part of the earth, right? So if we get the fourth part of the earth, right? Let me see. What's that scripture? Give me Revelation 6 and 8, Judah, since you're here.
It's the book of Revelation, chapter 6 and verse 8.
Because remember, Columbus mentioned in that book that he was looking for the fourth part of the earth, which was the second part of the earth, which was the part of the earth that hadn't been, civilized yet, right? And inhabited by mankind. That's basically what he said. And he knew that that is where the Israelites were said to have gone in the book of Second Ezra, right? This fourth part or the seventh part, whichever one you want to call it, right? So let's read who is supposed to get control over that fourth part of the earth, according to the Bible. Read Revelation 6 and 8.
God, it's the book of Revelation, chapter 6 and verse 8. And I looked, and behold, a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him.
What did my people call the so-called crackers? We call him the pale-faced man.
Right.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
We call him the pale-faced man.
That's right.
So this pale-faced man, he's on a horse. And let's read what he's going to do, right? He's called Death. So this pale-faced man is on a horse and he's called Death. Keep reading.
And power was given unto him. Salaki. And power was given unto them over the fourth part of the earth to kill with sword and with hunger and with death and with the beast of the earth.
Their power was given unto them to kill, steal, and destroy, basically, right? With the power and the image of the beast. Who's that beast? Cesare Borgia, right? The Christian church, their idolatry, their whole philosophy. That's what we teach. So that's what that is, man. You understand what I'm saying? And people got to acknowledge that. I don't know what just happened, but yeah. So that's the fourth part of the earth, right? And we see who is basically given to inhabit that. That fourth part of the earth is this land of the north. It's this place where they would call Mystery Babylon, right? The Great, the mother of whores, all of that stuff, right? And this place is supposed to be the place that's drunken with the blood of the Israelites, the martyrs of Yahweh. And isn't it? George Floyd, Orlando Castile, Breonna Taylor, right? Michael Brown, what's the other brother? Trayvon Martin, Icod Gurley, right? We could go on and on.
For days.
So drunken with the blood, the martyrs of Yahweh, man. A lot of those people woke up a lot of brothers and sisters. Seeing their death and hearing about their death is what brought a lot of people into the truth. Those are literal martyrs for Yahweh, right? Whether they were in the truth or not. Because they brought a lot of us in. Okay? So now, back to us being oppressed together. We got a mystery Babylon is the great whore, right? So let's go to Jeremiah chapter 3 and 18. Who got that? Go ahead.
That's the book of Jeremiah, chapter 3 and verse 18.
And Judah, give me Jeremiah 50:33. Go ahead, Doc.
In those days, the house of Judah shall walk with the house of Israel, and they shall come together out of the land of the north into the land that I have given for an inheritance unto their fathers.
So he said, we're going to come together out of the land of the north. So if these Negro only niggas say that we all supposed to be in the Middle East somewhere, right? The Northern Kingdom's in the Middle East, so the Northern Kingdom. I've heard of many brothers and sisters that say they're the tribe of Ephraim in West Africa, right? That's what they say, right? It's many brothers and sisters that say they're the tribe of Ephraim in West Africa. When we were at HOR, there was a dude who tried to say that he was from the tribe of Ephraim in West Africa. He looked like a damn Jew, right? And we explained it to him. And you know he told us straight up by his mouth? I wish the video was still up, but it's from when we were HOI a long, long time ago, like my first year in the truth. The man goes, you know, they say my tribe is Ephraim, but the elders have a story where, like, you know, it's a bunch of Jewish men that come through there too. And they like helped us regain our knowledge of the books and stuff. So right there, it's it. Me and Joe was like, yo, could it be that those people told you were the tribe of Ephraim and you really could be like, you know, one of the Southern Kingdom tribes or something? He goes, it's possible. And then you do the research, right? And you start to realize there was a sect of the so-called Ashkenazis, right? Before 1948 that was going to West Africa after the Balfour Declaration was started but not finished, right? So while Hitler was around, they're going to West Africa in the 1940s to find the Jews in West Africa, right? But to tell those people that they're not the Southern Kingdom Jews, you're the other tribes. You know, you're probably Ephraim, right? That's why these Negro only niggas can only say the tribe of Ephraim is in West Africa, because there was no other Northern Kingdom tribe. They didn't say Naphtali's over here, you know, Simeon's over here. No, they only said Ephraim because the white man only go for the head tribes. Those are the only tribes he can remember. Hence why he only chooses Judah, Levi, and Benjamin if he's smart. If he knows a little bit of something, he might say, I'm a Benjamite. But the vast majority of them only choose Judah and Levi. So they told us, the real Jews, y'all are Ephraim. You guys might be Ephraim, yeah. In that tribe of Gad, yeah. They might be somewhere, you know, the Zulu nation down there by Zimbabwe, I heard might be the damn Gadites. That's what they telling them. And you Negro only brothers and sisters aren't doing the research for yourself, but in fact just going along with what you're seeing somewhere or what you heard somebody say, maybe seen on the folk, right? But the fact of the matter is there's too many books, too much evidence that brothers and sisters have to refute. You can't just talk down the 12 tribes chart no more. Because we ain't even talk about the 12 tribes chart and everything linked up with what we have on the damn chart. So what now, nigga? Right? Straight like that. Ariel didn't get the idea that the Aztecs was the Issacharites, right? It literally says in a couple of books that the tribe of Issachar is the Aztecs. The brother brought it out to you in that video that I've showed at the beginning. That they themselves knew and told the explorers that we're the tribe of Issachar. So we didn't make that up. So all the Mexicans that you ain't trying to accept, right? They told us themselves that that's who they are. So what's the problem, right? That's what folks got to realize. It just don't make no sense, man. That y'all are denying actual proof. You know what I'm saying, of the stuff that we got out here. But did somebody get Jeremiah 50:33?
Come on, I got it.
And Derek, since you back, Jeremiah 16:14.
This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 50.
Ariah get Jeremiah 31:8. Go ahead, Al.
Come on, this is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 50 and 33. Thus saith the Most High of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together. And all that took them captives held them fast. They refused to let them go.
See that? All they held them captives held them fast. They refused to let them go. So if the Northern Kingdom was in captivity, they should still be in captivity wherever they went to, because they were not let go. And they're supposed to be oppressed together with the tribe, well, with the kingdom of Judah, right? Jeremiah 3 told us the whole house of Judah and the whole house of Israel was going to be in the land of the north. So that means it ain't no bulk. We ain't talking about Isaiah 11 little amount here. No, bruh. It's gonna be a little amount over there in the Middle East where you trying to say the bulk is. That's why all you brothers that think you the tribe of Judah and stuff like that, Benjamin, Levi, right? Y'all are over here in the land of the north. So that means if you're here, who else got to be here? The northern kingdom, right?
Yep.
That's what the Bible says. They were oppressed together, and those that held them fast and refused to let them go, right? Jeremiah 16 and 14.
This is the book of Jeremiah, chapter 16 and verse 14. Therefore, behold, the days cometh, saith Yahweh, that it shall no more be said, Yahweh liveth, that brought up the children of Israel out of the land of Egypt.
It shall no longer be said that the Most High Yahweh liveth that brought us up out of the land of Egypt, right? During the Exodus. But it's going to be said what? Go ahead.
But Yahweh liveth that brought up the children of Israel from the land of the north, and from all the lands whither he had driven them.
Oh, so first the land of the north, and then all the lands whither he had driven them, right? Not just pick up the southern kingdom from the land of the north and everybody else from the lands where he had driven them. No, it's got to be everybody, man. Everybody gets included in this, bro. Right? When you read Isaiah 11, chapter, basically the whole Isaiah 11, it explains to you that we're going to be getting picked up from all the different places as a remnant, right? Where to the four corners of the earth that the Most High scattered us in, right? And then in Isaiah chapter 66, it explains to you that we're going to be getting picked up from these places in chariots and brought to the wilderness, right? In the book of Ezekiel chapter 20, verses 33 on down, it explains to you that in this wilderness is where the Most High is going to plead with us, and from there we're going to go into the kingdom. That's how it's going to happen. So we got to get picked up from here first, together in the land of the north. That's what it is, man. Whether you like it, understand it, believe it, or not. Jeremiah 31 and 8. And we done.
It's the book of Jeremiah, chapter 31 and verse 8. Behold, I will bring them forth, Salakia. Behold, I will bring them from the north country and gather them from the coast of the earth. And with them that blind and the lame, the woman with child and her travaileth with child together, a great company shall return thither.
So we finna return, man, from the north country to Israel, yo. Somebody give me Isaiah 66 right quick. Let's just read it. I love that chapter. Let's start at verse 14.
Right. It's the book of Isaiah 66.
Hold up. Let me read it right quick. Just so we get some context to what's going on. Brother's going to be like, he said this, and I don't understand what he means. This is Ezekiel chapter 20 and verse 33. As I live, said the Lord, surely with a mighty hand and with a stretched out arm and with fury poured out will I rule over you. This is Ezekiel 20 and 33. Once again, on down. And I will bring you out from the people and will gather you out of the countries wherein ye are scattered with a mighty hand and with a stretched out arm and with fury poured out. And I will bring you into the wilderness of the people, and there will I plead with you face to face. So we're going to get picked up and then get brought into the wilderness, right? Like as I pleaded with your fathers in the wilderness in the land of Egypt, so will I plead with you in the land of the Lord. Just like he pleaded with us in the land in the wilderness in the land of Egypt before he led us into Israel, right? Into the land of milk and honey. He's going to do the same thing here before we get into this kingdom. Same thing. So, I will cause you to pass under the rod, and I will bring you into the bond of the covenant. I will purge you out from among the rebels and them that transgress against me, and I will bring them forth out of the country where they sojourn, and they shall not enter into the land of Israel. And ye shall know that I am Yahweh. Right? So that's that. Let's get Isaiah chapter 66.
It's the book of Isaiah chapter 66, verse 14. And when ye see this, your heart shall rejoice, and your bones shall flourish like a herb, and the hand of the Most High shall be known towards his servants.
Now, mind you, people like Montezuma, right? People like Montezinos, people like Francisco, all understood that this was biblical prophecy. So when Cortez and them came through, they thought this was what was going to happen, right? They might not have had a full understanding. The water, Rodney, God's for your donation.
The water.
They might not have known that this in particular was going to be a prophecy involving actual chariots from like the sky or something. They might have thought the chariots were ships. So Columbus went ahead and put it out there. Yeah, we've got the vessels that are supposed to pick you up. The Most High sent us to you. Listen to us, and we'll get you back to your God. And Cortez did the same thing with Montezuma. And Montezuma gave him access to gave him power over all of the Aztecs, which is how we end up where we are. That's how the idolatry starts. That's how the burning on the stake starts. That's how the feeding them to alligators and dogs and cutting open the mother's babies in the womb and all that stuff starts, right? The wars, all that type of stuff. It all begins there with them lying, right? Their mouth was drawn swords. You feel? Nothing they said was the truth. They made treaties with us. They broke the treaties. War was in their hearts, right? Words were smooth as butter, but war was in their hearts. So this is what we got to understand, man. But go ahead, keep reading out.
I'm gonna read it from the top.
All right.
And this is Isaiah 66 and 14. And when ye see this, your heart shall rejoice, and your bones shall flourish like a herb. And the hand of the Most High shall be known towards his servants, and his indignation towards his enemies.
So they knew that the Most High was coming for them. They just were mistaken in the time period that it was happening. Go ahead, keep reading.
For behold, the Most High will come with fire, and with his chariots like a whirlwind, to render his anger with fury, and his rebuke with flames of fire.
But once they realized that wasn't it, later on down the line in the 1600s, people like Francisco, when they were talking to Montezinos, they said, but you know what? Most High gonna avenge us for this thing, bro. These crackers ain't gonna, they're not gonna just get to go unpunished, right? Huh? We're gonna punish them for the iniquity of their forefathers. He said they were gonna get vengeance for this.
That's right.
Go ahead.
For by fire and by his sword will the Most High plead with all flesh.
Mm-hmm.
And the slain of the Most High shall be many.
Right.
They that sanctify themselves and purify themselves in the gardens behind one tree in the midst, eating swine's flesh, and the abomination and the mouse shall be consumed together, saith the Most High.
Mm-hmm.
For I know their works and their thoughts. It shall come that I will gather all nations and tongues, and they that come and see my glory, and I will set a sign among them, and I will send those that escape of them unto the nation to Tarshish, Hul and Lud, to draw the bow to Tabal and Javan, to the isles far off, that have not heard my fame, neither have seen my glory, and they shall declare my glory among the Gentiles.
Right. So now we're gonna be in these chariots, and we're gonna go and spread the word, the gospel, right, to the Gentiles. Go ahead.
And they shall bring all your brethren for offering to the Most High, out of all nations upon horses, and in chariots, and in litters, and upon mules, and upon swift beasts, to my holy mountain Jerusalem, save the Most High, as the children of Israel bring an offering in a clean vessel unto the house of the Most High. And I will also take of them for priests and for Levites, save the Most High.
You see that? Oh, go ahead.
For as the new heavens and the new earth, which I will make, shall remain before thee, save the Most High, so shall your seed and your name remain.
You understand? So we here, man. The Israelites are here. We ain't done away with. The so-called blacks, Hispanics, Latinos, Native American Indians, and the people that descend from us scattered abroad of indigenous Indian Negroid descent are the Israelites according to the Bible and his story. Right? Because all of his stories, no matter what type of book it is, all say that these people are the Israelites.
Facts.
Y'all just got to go read the books. You feel me?
Mm-hmm.
Y'all just got to go read the books and stop lying on the history, man.
Can I show them this
tribe chart? Because there's nothing on the chart that doesn't match up with history.
That's right.
The tribe of Gad said they were the tribe of Gad, and they're the North American Indians, right? The tribe of Reuben was supposed to be nearby. The tribe of Ephraim was supposed to be nearby. We know Reuben is known for being on ships in Florida, you know what I'm saying, in that area, and in ships in the you know, sailing from Florida to the Bahamian Islands and stuff like that. In other places in the Bahamas, in the Caribbean. Reuben is known for that. So that adds up. When they got when Columbus, when you go and look at his when you read the stories of Luis de Torres, right? The Israelite interpreter for Columbus, because he has a book too. You can go read. He tells you in his book that the first place they docked off wasn't the Bahamas, it was Cuba. And he got off the ship and met the people there. Or the last place, I mean, that they docked off was Cuba. And he actually stayed there. That's where he died. He hopped off that ship and never went back to Columbus. He stayed with his people in Cuba and said that those people were known to be the tribe of Manasseh. And even Manasseh told him that the Ephraimites were on an island nearby. They went to Hispaniola, found the Dominicans. Ephraim is on an island nearby. And Reuben is near too. So that means Reuben was on an island. And they went to the Bahamas and found that there were people in the Bahamas, which probably was the tribe of Reuben. In not the Bahamas, Jamaica. They went to Jamaica and actually found niggas there. And it wasn't like niggas, they were Indians. So there were slaves in Jamaica before, like, you know, coolies got there and stuff. That were actual Indians from one of the tribes. I believe it was Reuben. So this is all history that's in the books that brothers ain't did their research on. Columbus got here and said that the freaking people he saw in the Dominican Republic didn't look like Ethiopians. They wasn't my complexion. They didn't have hair like I got. They was a little bit lighter than me and they had straight hair, he said. And then to make it make sense to the people, right? That thought that the Jews were only the people that looked like the Moors over there in Spain and Portugal. They had to be dark-skinned Ethiopian looking people, right? He's saying to make sense of this, these people do not dwell where the rays of the sun are at their hottest. So that must be why they're not the darkest, but they're still the Israelites. He's even giving you a full freaking characteristic breakdown of the people. And you saying they got to look like niggas. They had to look like niggas before the white man got there. Why the white man ain't say that? All the people that came to the Americas said the only Indians, right, meaning tribe of Gad or Reuben, that looked like Ethiopians were the ones found on the east, southeast, and northeast part of the United States and the mainland. Everywhere else, they didn't look like that. They looked like the people that Columbus saw in the Dominican Republic.
Salaki.
Go ahead.
I want to read this real quick. This is from The History of the American Indians by James Adair. It's just backing up what you were just saying. The first sentence in the book, the chapter says, "A history of the North American Indians and their customs, observations on the color, shape, temper, and dress of the American Indians." Right. First sentence: the Indians are of copper or red clay color. That's the first sentence. You know what I'm saying? So they didn't all look like dark-skinned brothers. You know what I'm saying? They had different complexions. You see what I'm saying? But the Negro-only Israelites, they make it seem like all the brothers was like, you know, real dark-skinned men. And that wasn't the case.
Mm-hmm. Sister, I'm doing research on this right now. Tribe of Dan is not done away with. We're going to have a lesson coming soon. I'm working on it. I believe they right here in the Americas with us, and some of them are in Europe. So we'll talk about that. But yeah, Dan is still here, in my opinion. And I'm going to prove it. And our camp has a theory already in the book of Revelation, chapter 7. The reason Dan isn't there is because it's a typo. They have Ephraim and Manasseh, and they're the same tribe. They're both under Joseph, meaning somebody's missing. So Dan should be there.
My pops asked me that very question this morning, and I said the same
Yeah.
thing. That was my answer.
So it's a mistake, but we're gonna prove it. You know, at some point, I'm just trying to, I gotta get all the research and I gotta get everything lined up before I put it out there. So yeah, but we're gonna do it. We're gonna get it out there to y'all. But anyway, I hope y'all liked the lesson, man. We're gonna go ahead and wrap it up. Hope y'all enjoyed it. Hope y'all took good notes. You know what I'm saying? And the brother found another video. It's called Ruth is not an Israelite, and what the Northern Kingdom proof the Northern Kingdom Israelites,
Yeah.
Right.
something like that.
Ruth is an Israelite. Proof Northern Kingdom is Hispanics and Native Americans. Something to that.
Proof Northern Kingdom is Hispanics and Native Americans, right? So if you watch that, fast forward to like the middle of the video, you'll actually see certain things, right? Certain things like this right here. Hold up.
I got it. Truth on Ruth and proof NK is Hispanics and Natives per Deuteronomy 28. That's the name of the video.
Perfect. Y'all see this? Huh? Y'all see this little thing that say Judah and Ephraim? Can y'all see it? I'm asking.
Yeah. It's up
Okay.
there.
No,
So,
yeah, Connor.
in all southern colonies, Indian slaves worked in the fields side by side with Negroes, right? Oppressed together, right? That's it. This is from a book source, Indian Slavery in Colonies Times, in colonial times within the present limits of the United States by Almond Wheeler Lauber in 1880, page number 244. You even got the page numbers for you dumb ducks, right? So, thus said Yahweh of hosts, the children of Israel and the children of Judah were oppressed together, right? There's plenty of things like this. Book of Deuteronomy, chapter 68, verse 28-68. By the time of the King Philip's War in 1675 to 1676, the colonists were well accustomed to the sending of Indian captives out of the country and to use them in their homes, right? So they're sending people to Europe from America, right? In slave ships, just like Deuteronomy 28-68 says would happen. It didn't just happen to the Southern Kingdom; it also happened to the Northern Kingdom, right? Here we see it. The policy followed toward the Indians captured in this war was the same that was shown in the Pequot War. The Pequot War is the war that happened that started this thing called Thanksgiving, right? When they were taking real Indians like Squanto from the Wampanoag and bringing them to Europe and back and forth to the Americas, right, to serve captivity to multiple slave masters. The captives were either exported for sale in the European or West Indian slave markets, right? That's just a couple of stuff. This again is from the book Indian Slavery in the Colonial Times Within the Present Limits of the United States by Almond Wheeler. This is on page 125. We could go on all day long. Transportation of slaves, right? Again, in 1675, 15 Indians were captured and sent to Boston, tied neck to neck, right? What's that scripture saying? Deuteronomy 28, was it 45? Where it says that he's going to have the yoke of iron upon your neck until he has destroyed thee. That didn't just happen to the Southern Kingdom, ladies and gentlemen, because here we see that there's Indians tied neck and neck like galley slaves, right? Much against the will of the populace, they were given trail. All were finally acquitted except two who were sentenced to be sold out of the country as slaves. During the years 1675 and 1676, one finds mention of the Indians in Plymouth in a group of about 157, 3,000, 3, 160, 10, and 1 from June 25th, 1675 on September 23rd, 1676, and records show the sale of Plymouth colonial authorities of 188 Indians. In Massachusetts Bay Colony, a similar disposal of captives was accomplished on one occasion. About 200 were transported and sold. So on two occasions, just in the same damn year, they had 188 Indians and 200 Indians transported in the same year, right? In the same month. You understand me? So this is also, right, Indian slavery in the colonial times within the present limits of the United States by Almond Wheeler Lauber, 1880, page 126, right? There's a whole bunch of history research that y'all don't have, right? 126 and 127, right? The most of the remaining chiefs were their captive followers, were sold and shipped off as slaves outside the colonies, right? This is more Indian chiefs in Plymouth, Boston, Massachusetts, right? We got more prophecy. It's a whole bunch of stuff, man, that I showed y'all. All of these notes are shown in the in the in that video that Judah just brought out. The truth on Ruth, and proof that the Northern Kingdom is Hispanics, Latinos, and Native Americans. So y'all could go watch that. You'll get all those notes. You can get some of those books. Go buy the books. Go read the books. Take notes on the books, and then put it out there for the people that don't believe these people are your people, right? Because we trying to teach the truth. That's what we're supposed to be here for, to let everybody know what the deal is. So we are the sons of thunder Israelites. It is our prayer and heart's desire that all Israel might be saved. Hope y'all enjoyed the lesson, the water for the donations, and shalom.
Shalom.